I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My chest tightened as I stared at my phone screen, my mother sitting at our family dining table, a wine glass in hand, completely unaware she was being broadcast to the internet. "Sinead? Oh please," she scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "My daughter thinks selling houses makes her successful. She couldn't hack it in nursing school. And now she's just wandering through life like a desperate failure." An hour ago my cousin Jenna had texted me, "You need to see this, I'm so sorry." Attached was a link to her latest live stream, part of her ongoing attempt to grow as a social media influencer. I had been out of town at a real estate conference in Providence, just settling into my hotel room when the message came through. "My name is Lily Sullivan. I'm 32, and for the past 5 years, I've been quietly paying my mother's medical bills after her rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. I've driven her to appointments, handled her insurance paperwork, and covered her medication costs, all while working 60-hour weeks to keep my real estate business in Boston afloat. And yet there she was, taking center stage in my family's Sunday dinner conversation. It's such a shame," she continued, swirling her wine like she was giving an Oscar-worthy performance. "All those grand dreams about becoming a nurse, and now she just sells houses to people who actually succeeded in life." Laughter. My aunt and uncle chuckled along, my stomach dropped. Jenna had clearly been filming from her lap, probably trying to be discreet. My mother had no idea she was being recorded, which only made her words sting more. "Remember when she dropped out of nursing school?" Mom turned to my aunt with a smirk. "She came home crying about how hard the exams were. Pathetic. And now she acts like selling a house every few months makes her some kind of big shot." My throat burned. The truth? I hadn't dropped out because I couldn't handle it. I had put nursing school on hold because she had gotten sick. I was making decent money in real estate, and every extra penny had gone to her medical care instead of finishing my degree. But that didn't matter to her. "Lily just doesn't have what it takes," she sighed, reaching for another sip of the wine I had bought for family dinners. "Some people just aren't cut out for real achievement." I sat frozen, tears blurring my vision, as the bitter reality hit me. I'd spent years telling myself that my mother's harsh words were just her pain talking, that she didn't mean it. But this wasn't some offhand comment. This wasn't frustration. This was her, unfiltered, completely comfortable tearing me down in front of the family. And now, there was proof. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jenna. "I'm so sorry you had to see that. I didn't realize what she was saying until it was too late. Do you want me to take the video down?" I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back, "No, leave it up," because for the first time I wasn't going to make excuses for her. The drive home from Providence the next morning was a blur. I barely remembered checking out of the hotel, barely registered the 2-hour journey back. My mother's words played in my head on a loop, her laughter echoing in my ears. 5 years ago, my life had been on a completely different path. And now, I wasn't sure where I stood anymore. But one thing was certain, I was done being the one who always forgave and forgot. I was 27, halfway through nursing school and thriving. Becoming a nurse had been my dream for as long as I could remember, to help people, to make a real difference. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Mom had collapsed at work. She was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis? Aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. It would require ongoing treatment, expensive medications, and constant care. "It's not fair," she had sobbed from her hospital bed, gripping my hand. "How am I supposed to afford all this? The insurance barely covers anything." I had squeezed her fingers, holding back my own fears. "We'll figure it out together, Mom." Dad had passed away when I was in high school, leaving it just the two of us. Despite her criticisms and occasional sharp words, I believed we had a bond. She had worked extra shifts, sacrificed so much to give me opportunities. And now, it was my turn to step up. So I made a choice. A temporary one, I told myself. I paused my nursing education. Real estate had flexible hours and the potential for good money. It would let me drive Mom to appointments, manage her care, and still earn enough to keep us afloat. It was supposed to be short-term, just until she stabilized. Just until I could save enough to go back to school. But short-term turned into years. Mom's condition improved, but the bills never stopped. Treatments, medications, physical therapy, it all added up. I became the sole person handling her health care, spending hours on the phone fighting with insurance companies, chasing approvals, researching the best specialists. "You've become so responsible," she would say, in rare moments of appreciation. Those words had carried me through so many sleepless nights, so many 60-hour work weeks. Now, sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel, those words felt meaningless. I hadn't told Mom I was coming back early. She still thought I was in Providence, networking at the real estate conference. She had no idea I had cut my trip short after watching that video. My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. "I'm at the coffee shop on Maple. Can meet whenever you're ready." I took a steadying breath and reached for my laptop bag, pulling out a folder labeled Mom Medical, 5 years' worth of receipts, bank statements, insurance payments, and medical bills. I had never planned to use them as evidence. I had only kept them for tax purposes, for financial tracking. But now, they told a story. One my mother had rewritten to make me the failure. I typed out a response. "Be there in 15 minutes. The coffee shop was packed, but I spotted Jenna right away. 16 years old, bright blue hair, oversized headphones resting around her neck. The second she saw me, guilt flashed across her face. "I'm so sorry, Sinead," she blurted as I sat down. "I didn't know she was going to say those things. I was just live streaming like usual, and then Aunt Patricia started talking about you, and it got so mean. And it's not your fault," I interrupted gently. "Actually, I need to thank you." Her brow furrowed. "Thank me? For what?" I slid the folder across the table and flipped it open, revealing every document, every medical bill, every payment, every appointment schedule. "For showing me the truth," I said quietly. Jenna flipped through the pages, her eyes widening. This is thousands of dollars. Over 100,000, I corrected. "I put my entire life on hold for her, my nursing degree, my savings, even relationships." Jenna swallowed hard, looking up at me. "She doesn't know, does she?" I let out a slow breath. "No, but she's about to. Everything in my life had been put on hold because I thought she needed me." Jenna flipped through the paperwork again, her expression shifting from shock to something sharper, anger. "And she calls you a failure?" she muttered. "That's so messed up." I nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over me. I always thought her criticism was just, her way of pushing me. That deep down, she appreciated what I was doing. I let out a bitter laugh. "Guess I was wrong." Jenna met my gaze. "So what are you gonna do?" I exhaled slowly, my decision solidifying with every word. "I'm done. I already have the paperwork ready to take myself off her accounts." Her eyebrows shot up. "You're not even gonna confront her?" I shook my head. What would be the point? She'd just deny it. Or tell me I'm being dramatic. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I'd been saving little by little, hoping I could go back to nursing school someday. My thumb hovered over the screen before I pressed transfer, moving the money I had been setting aside for her next round of treatments, into my personal savings. "Now, I'm actually going to use it for that." Jenna stared at me. "Wow," she whispered. "Are you sure?" I met her eyes. "I've never been more sure of anything." For 5 years, I had been her safety net while she dismissed everything I did. That ended today. I reached into my bag and pulled out a letter, an acceptance letter I had received months ago from the nursing program, the one I had nearly deferred again because of Mom's latest medical expenses. "I start in the fall," I told Jenna, "and this time I'm not pushing it back." Jenna reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'll send you the full video, just in case you need it." As we parted ways, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Freedom. No guilt, no hesitation, just clarity. For once, I was choosing myself. The insurance company representative sounded confused when I called the next morning. "You want to remove yourself as the guarantor on Patricia Sullivan's accounts?" she repeated. "May I ask why?" "Personal reasons," I said, my voice steady. "I won't be responsible for any payments after this month." It was day 3 of my new resolve. The entire weekend had been a blur of phone calls, emails, and paperwork. My dining room table was buried under files as I systematically unraveled every financial tie I had to my mother. The representative hesitated. "Miss Sullivan, without your financial support, your mother's premium will increase substantially. Her coverage options may also change." "I understand," I said. "Could you send a formal letter explaining these changes to her home address? I want to make sure she's fully informed." I knew exactly what I was doing. The letter would land in her mailbox in about a week, giving me time to finalize everything before the inevitable meltdown. My phone buzzed again, more texts from her. She had no idea what I was doing yet, but she'd expected me to pick her up for a doctor's appointment this morning. "Where are you?" I've been waiting for an hour. The doctor's office just called. My insurance was declined. Fix it ASAP, are you ignoring me? Answer your damn phone, Sinead. Each message only strengthened my resolve. I switched my phone to silent and kept working. By nightfall, most of the financial separation was complete, and I was finally ready for the next step. I opened my laptop and began drafting a single carefully worded email. Subject: Important family update. Dear family, after much consideration, I will no longer be managing my mother's medical care or providing financial support. Over the past 5 years, I have covered all expenses related to her condition, totaling over $120,000, including insurance premiums, medications, specialist visits, and treatments. This decision was not made lightly, but it is final. Moving forward, she may need assistance, and I wanted you all to be informed. Attached is a detailed breakdown of everything I've contributed should anyone wish to help. I hope you understand. Best, Sinead. I attached the spreadsheet, every dollar spent, every appointment booked, every hour sacrificed. The proof was undeniable. Then I downloaded the full livestream video Jenna had sent me. 1 copy on my computer, 1 in cloud storage, 1 on a USB drive. I didn't have a plan for it yet, but something told me I might need it. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. I glanced through the peephole. My mother stood on my porch, arms crossed, her face twisted with anger. Sinead, I know you're in there. Open this door right now. I took a steadying breath. My heart pounded, but I didn't move. You've missed 3 of my calls. My medication refill was denied at the pharmacy. What are you doing? I swallowed hard, then forced my voice to remain calm. I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll be getting a letter from the insurance company soon. I suggest you read it carefully. A pause, then confusion in her voice. What are you talking about? Open this door. No. The single word felt heavier, more powerful than I expected. I heard her sharp inhale, then the rage hit. Is this about money, after everything I've done for you? I almost laughed at the irony. Goodbye, Mom. Please don't come back. She yelled something else, something meant to guilt me, to pull me back in, but I didn't stay to listen. I turned and walked away, sitting back at my laptop to finish what I'd started. The fallout was immediate. Within hours of sending the email, my phone blew up with messages. Aunt Maureen, I'm shocked and appalled by your abandonment. Uncle James, this is unbelievably selfish, Sinead. You'll regret this someday. Cousin Thomas, just sort this out. Whatever petty fight you're having with your mom, fix it. Only 2 messages felt different. Jenna, proud of you. If you need anything, I'm here. Aunt Bridget, it takes courage to stand up for yourself, dear. Call me if you need anything. I blocked my mother's number first. Then, one by one, I muted the relatives who couldn't even ask for my side of the story. And the silence that followed, it was peaceful. 3 days later, I sat in the admissions office at Boston City Nursing School, finalizing my RE enrollment. You've been away from the program for quite some time, Ms. Sullivan, the advisor said, scanning my file. But your academic record is strong. You'll need to take a placement exam to determine if any refresher courses are necessary. I understand, I said, excitement bubbling in my chest. I've already started reviewing my old textbooks. As I walked across campus afterward, something settled deep inside me, a quiet, steady certainty. This was where I was meant to be, pursuing my own dreams, not living in service to someone else's needs. Balancing my real estate business with nursing school would take some adjusting, but I had a plan. I'd focus on fewer clients, target higher value properties, and bring in a part-time assistant to handle administrative work. The income would take a hit, but without my mother's expenses weighing me down, I could manage. When I got home, a formal-looking envelope was waiting in the mail. The return address? The insurance company. Inside was a letter meant for my mother, mistakenly sent to my address. It outlined the changes to her coverage, and the steep increase in premiums now that I was no longer her guarantor. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt relieved. My phone rang, Jenna. Have you seen the family group chat? She asked without preamble. I left all those chats, I admitted. What now? Jenna sighed. Your mom's telling everyone you've had some kind of mental breakdown. She's blaming stress from your failing business and claiming that's why you're acting out. I closed my eyes. Of course, she was spinning a new narrative. Classic. That's not all, Jenna continued. She doesn't realize I'm still in the chat. and she's convinced Aunt Maureen to let her move in temporarily while she sorts out her medical situation. I shook my head. Of course she has. Mom always finds a new safety net. After hanging up, I turned to my laptop, my gaze landing on the file Jenna had sent, the live stream that started it all. My fingers hovered over the play button. There was power in that video. It could expose the truth, force my family to see my mother for who she really was. But did I need their validation? The people who believed her without even asking for my side, were they really worth convincing? I closed the laptop. I had proof if I needed it. But right now, my energy was better spent on my own future. My nursing application was complete. My placement exam was scheduled. For the first time in years, I was making plans for myself, not cleaning up someone else's mess. I glanced at the insurance letter on my counter, a symbol of the shift I'd put in motion. After a moment, I slipped it into a new envelope and addressed it to my mother's actual residence. Inside, I added a single note. This was sent to my address by mistake. I suggest you read it carefully. No signature, no explanation, just facts. I dropped the envelope into the mailbox, feeling another piece of my burden lift. Her problems were hers to deal with now. The next 2 weeks passed in relative calm. I threw myself into nursing prep, filling every spare moment between real estate showings with study sessions. My placement exam was set for Friday, and each practice test made me feel more confident. Then came the ambush. I had just finished showing a 3-bedroom colonial in Brookline when I spotted them, my mother and Aunt Maureen, waiting near my mother's car in the parking lot. My stomach twisted. My first instinct, get in my car and drive away. But they had already seen me. Running wouldn't change anything. I exhaled slowly and stepped out. "Sinead," my mother greeted, her voice thick with forced sweetness. "We need to talk." Up close, I could see the exhaustion in her face. Her hair was unstyled, and she leaned heavily on her cane, a prop she only ever used when she wanted to emphasize her frailty. I crossed my arms. "I doubt there's anything left to say." Aunt Maureen stepped forward, arms folded. "Oh, I think there is." I braced myself. This wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be an attack. "I have nothing to say," I replied, gripping my keys so tightly my knuckles turned white. Aunt Maureen stepped forward, her expression tight with disapproval. "Your mother is struggling, Sinead. Her medication costs have tripled. She can't even get in with her specialists anymore. Is that what you wanted?" "What I wanted," I said slowly, carefully, "was to be treated with respect. To be acknowledged for 5 years of sacrifice. What I wanted was a mother who didn't call me a desperate failure behind my back." My mother's face paled. "What are you talking about?" I met her gaze without hesitation. "I saw the video, Mom. Jenna's live stream from the family dinner." Recognition flickered in her eyes, quickly followed by anger. "You're twisting things out of context," she snapped. "I was venting. Everyone does that." Aunt Maureen frowned. "What video?" I nearly laughed. Of course my mother hadn't told her allies about the live stream. She was probably hoping I'd never find out. "Go ahead," I said, watching her squirm. "Show her the video, or don't. It doesn't change anything. My decision is final." Mom switched tactics, her voice trembling. "I'm your mother, Sinead. After everything I've done for you, how can you abandon me now when I need you most?" Something inside me snapped. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated, my voice calm but laced with years of pent-up resentment. "Let me tell you what I've done for you. I put my entire life on hold. I spent over $100,000 on your care. I drove you to every appointment, fought with insurance companies, covered your prescriptions. And in return, you mocked my career, the career I built for you." Silence. Aunt Maureen glanced between us, doubt creeping into her expression. "Patricia," she said hesitantly, "what exactly was in this video?" Mom ignored her, eyes locked on me. "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but this is an extreme overreaction. I have serious health complications." "I know," I said, voice steady. "And I've taken care of you for 5 years. Now it's someone else's turn." I turned to Aunt Maureen. "She's living with you now, right? Has she asked you for money yet? How many doctor's appointments have you driven her to? How many prescriptions have you picked up?" Aunt Maureen didn't answer. She didn't have to. I exhaled. "I wish you both well, but I won't be manipulated anymore." "This isn't over," Mom called after me. "You can't just walk away from family." I paused, hand on my car door. "You're right about one thing, Mom. Family doesn't walk away from family, but family also doesn't use, manipulate, or belittle each other. So maybe ask yourself, who really walked away first? I got in my car and drove off. In the rearview mirror, I saw my mother gesturing wildly at Aunt Maureen, no doubt shifting the blame onto her. Some things never change. I took a steadying breath, gripping my clutch tighter. Is she in any immediate danger? Patrick hesitated. No, but then I'll be there after my event, I said firmly. There was a pause, as if he was processing the fact that I wasn't dropping everything like I used to. Lily, she's your mother. I know, I said, keeping my voice even, and I'll come, but I'm not abandoning my life for her anymore. I could hear Jenna whispering something in the background before Patrick sighed. Fine, just don't take too long. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the polished hallway mirror. A year ago, this situation would have sent me spiraling, panicked, scrambling to fix everything. Now? I wasn't heartless, but I wasn't a doormat either. My mother was stable, and I wasn't going to let her latest crisis define my night. Squaring my shoulders, I returned to the ballroom just in time for the award announcement. And the winner of this year's Resilience in Real Estate Award is Lily Sullivan. Applause erupted around me. Jeffrey shot me a triumphant grin, nudging me forward. I made my way to the stage, heart pounding, but not from nerves, from pride. As I accepted the award, I looked out at the audience, the colleagues who had supported me, the competitors who had underestimated me, and the mentors who had pushed me forward. I cleared my throat and spoke. This award means more than I can express. The past few years have tested me in ways I never imagined, balancing a career with personal challenges that often felt insurmountable. I took a breath. But resilience isn't just about surviving. It's about choosing to move forward, even when the past tries to pull you back. And tonight, I choose my future. The applause was deafening. When the ceremony wrapped up, I took a moment to soak it all in before finally heading to the hospital. Walking into my mother's room, I braced myself for the usual theatrics, but when she saw the trophy in my hand, her expression flickered, just for a second. Was that regret? Pride? It was gone before I could decipher it. Nice of you to finally show up, she muttered. I simply set the award down on a nearby chair and met her gaze. How are you feeling? She sniffed, adjusting her blanket. Like my own daughter doesn't care. I'm here, aren't I? I said, calm but firm. But I'm not going to apologize for taking time for myself. She eyed me, waiting for me to cave. When I didn't, she sighed, looking away. The doctor said I'll be fine. Good, I said, standing. Then I'll let you rest. Her lips parted slightly as if she wanted to say something, but I didn't wait. I'd come, I'd checked in, and now I was walking away, on my terms. As I stepped into the hallway, Jenna was waiting. That was different, she whispered, impressed. I smiled. Yeah, it was. I met her gaze, my expression unreadable. You're feeling better, I see. She huffed, adjusting her blanket. Not that you care. I ignored the bait and turned to Patrick. The doctors needed medical history? He cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. They had a few questions, but it's nothing urgent. Just standard checks. So, not an emergency then? I asked, arching an eyebrow. Patrick shifted in his seat. Well, no. I nodded, then turned back to my mother. So you had them drag me away from an important event just to make a point? Her lips pressed into a thin line. You should have been here. I'm your mother. I exhaled slowly, keeping my voice measured. You're right. You are my mother. Which is why I spent years taking care of you, sacrificing my own life to make sure you had everything you needed. And how? Did you repay me? Her eyes flickered toward Jenna, who was watching silently, arms crossed. She knew exactly what I was referring to. You're being dramatic, my mother scoffed. You always take things too personally. I shook my head, a hollow laugh escaping. You publicly humiliated me in front of our family, mocked the career I built to support you, and you think I'm the one being dramatic? She had nothing to say to that. Patrick sighed. Lily, she's struggling. Maybe we can all take a step back and— No, I cut in, my tone firm but calm. I did step back, Patrick. This was the ending I never expected, yet exactly the one I needed. For years I had been tethered to obligations I never agreed to, held down by guilt, by duty, by the desperate need for approval from someone who was never going to give it. And now? Now I was free. My nursing textbook sat beside my real estate awards, a perfect symbol of the two lives I had balanced and conquered. The journey hadn't been easy. There were setbacks, painful realizations, and moments where I questioned everything. But here I was, standing on my own, thriving in a career I had fought to reclaim, building a life that was finally undeniably mine. Patrick's call was a small but meaningful moment, a quiet acknowledgement of the truth I had long known. I didn't need my mother's validation to be whole. I had built something stronger: self-respect, independence, and the ability to define my own worth. I picked up a highlighter and flipped open my nursing journal. The words on the page no longer a dream deferred, but a future I was actively creating. Tomorrow, I would help a family find their perfect home in the morning and study cardiac care in the afternoon. My life was busy, unpredictable, challenging, but it was mine. And that, more than anything, was the real victory. Over the next few months, life settled into a rhythm I never thought possible. My days were filled with purpose, balancing real estate work with nursing school, and while it wasn't easy, I thrived in the challenge. For the first time in years, I was living for myself, not carrying the weight of someone else's burdens. The clarity was liberating. Still, my mother lingered like a shadow in the background. Though she hadn't reached out directly, I heard snippets through Jenna and, occasionally, Uncle Patrick. She was struggling without me, her finances in disarray, bouncing from one relative to another in search of support. Part of me expected the guilt to creep back in, to feel some kind of obligation to fix things. But every time I thought of stepping back into that role, I reminded myself that she had been given every opportunity to appreciate me, and she had chosen to belittle and dismiss my sacrifices instead. One evening, while finishing an assignment, I received a text from an unknown number. "Mom, Sinead, I need to talk to you." I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was the moment I had prepared for, the moment she'd inevitably come looking for help. But I wasn't the same person she had manipulated for years. "Me, what do you need?" Seconds later, my phone rang. I hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A pause. Then her voice, weaker than I remembered. She exhaled sharply. "I know I haven't treated you well." Understatement of the year, I thought, but said nothing. Another pause. "I need your help, Sinead." I waited, giving her space to elaborate, but when she said nothing else, I pressed, "Help with what, exactly?" "My insurance is refusing to cover a procedure. I need someone who understands the system to talk to them. No one else knows how to handle these things the way you do." I closed my eyes, exhaustion settling into my bones. Not an apology, not even an acknowledgement of the years of financial and emotional support I'd provided. Just another request, another problem she wanted me to solve. "No," I said simply. "What?" She sounded genuinely shocked, as if the idea of me refusing her had never occurred to her before. "I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll have to figure it out." "I'm sick, Sinead," she snapped, her voice turning sharp. "You can't just abandon me." I let out a breath, steadying myself. "I didn't abandon you, Mom. You abandoned me a long time ago, when you belittled me, when you dismissed everything I did for you, when you made it clear I was only useful when I was paying your bills. I gave you everything I had, and it still wasn't enough." She was quiet. I almost thought she'd hung up before she spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't mean those things." "But you said them." Silence stretched between us. "I hope you figure things out," I finally said, "but I can't be the person who saves you anymore." I hung up before she could respond. After that call, something inside me settled. The closure I had thought I needed, the dramatic confrontation, the grand apology, was never going to come. And that was okay. I didn't need her validation anymore. Instead, I threw myself into my studies. Nursing school was demanding, but I excelled, finding fulfillment in ways I never had before. Patients expressed gratitude for my compassion, professors noted my attention to detail, and my peers leaned on me for support. It felt right. The turning point came when I was assigned my first clinical rotation at a long-term care facility. My first day, I helped an elderly woman adjust her pillows, listening as she spoke about her late daughter. "She was always so good to me," she murmured. I wish I had told her that more often. I swallowed the lump in my throat, thinking of my mother. That night, I pulled out my laptop and composed an email. "Mom, I hope you're doing well. I meant what I said. I can't be responsible for you anymore. But I do hope you find the support you need. Life is too short to be bitter. I've learned that the hard way. Take care. I hit send, not expecting a reply. And that was fine. I had said my piece. Weeks turned into months. I graduated with honors, my real estate business thriving alongside my nursing career. At my graduation, Jenna and Uncle Patrick cheered for me, along with my closest friends. My mother wasn't there, but I no longer needed her to be. And then, one afternoon, I received a letter. It was from her. Sinead, I don't expect forgiveness, I don't expect anything, but I saw your graduation photo on Jenna's page. You looked happy. I hope you really are. I'm sorry for everything. Mom, I stared at the words, 1,000 emotions colliding at once. I wouldn't rush back to her side. I wouldn't undo all the progress I'd made. But maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something different. Not reconciliation, not a return to the past, but an understanding, a possibility, and that was enough.